All right, so when it comes to the relationship between your lower body and your upper body, a good rule of thumb is the more flexed your hips are, so the closer your knees to your chest, the more of a demand that places on your capacity to keep an upright torso. You can see that in things like a bodyweight squat versus a back squat versus an overhead squat. The more demand there is to stay upright, the more demand there is on the hips and things of that nature. So anyway, the same can be said about doing your shoulder cars. Now, one important note, I always like to tell people, when you are increasing complexity or you're making something harder, that does not mean that the regression, the one you started with, is null and void and you no longer benefit from it. Quite the contrary. The more advanced you get, the more important it is, in my experience, to go back periodically to the beginning variations, because you will now be going back to them with a much deeper understanding of how things are supposed to feel, how things are supposed to move, and you'll actually get more out of it. So it's kind of a rhythm that, yes, you're always progressing, but you're also coming back to the beginning to fortify the foundation. So point is, we're going over a more complex version of shoulder cars today, slightly more complex version. This does not make standing shoulder cars null and void, okay? So, like I said, when you are in a more flexed position in your hips, it's going to place more of a demand on staying upright, all right? So we know shoulder cars from the standing position. Today, you see behind me, we're going to have some benches. Now, I will demonstrate from kind of easiest to hardest progressions, and I want you to pick the one that, yes, challenges you, but allows you to move well with good form. All right, so here we go. So the first one we have is just a relatively tall box. Now from the side, I am almost at 90 degrees, but not quite. Now, when you're in this shallow of a hip position, you might not feel the added challenge to your shoulders. It's only, in my experience, when you get below 90 degrees with your hips that you, or I'm sorry, above 90 degrees, right? So 100 plus degrees, that you actually feel the increased challenge. But if that's too hard, too complex for you, start here. And then from there, it's the same execution. Thumbs come out when the hands are in front of you. Keeping the elbows locked out. We raise the arms up until we feel resistance. Once we feel resistance, we stop. We turn the thumbs in. We reach back behind us. Keeping the shoulder blades down, not letting them come up. Okay, we stop at the halfway point and then we go back the other way. With the thumbs still turned in, we come up until we meet resistance. We stop when we feel resistance. Thumbs out, reach back as we come up to the starting position. Test it out. If this is more, you feel the added challenge, stay here. If not, transition to a smaller box. So again, like I said, now that I am below 90 degrees, you're going to feel the increased demand on your upper back and your shoulders. Now, one important note, when you're doing these seated, okay, we're not in a lazy boy recliner. You need to be on your sit bones and have a significant amount of weight on your feet, almost like you're holding the bottom of the squat, because as you might have guessed, that's actually the next progression we'll go over in a minute, okay? You're not going to properly challenge your body by not being aware of your posture. You need to be aware of your posture here, okay? And then it's going to be the same thing. Now, one common compensation I see when we do these is we start to look down to make up for the lack of range of motion. Keep your eyes forward, because where your eyes go, your chest goes. So if you look down, your chest is going to go down with you. So a nice, tall, proud chest as you're doing this, okay? So test that out. If that's not that challenging, finally, we can actually sink down into a squat, okay, whatever your bottom squat position is, and do the shoulder cars from here. And as you can see, these are much more challenging. So as always, pick the right progression for you. Pay attention to your form. It's not worth doing a more complex, more difficult version if it makes you compensate. Thank you.